Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72. I'm back again with another Tower of God. Sorry about that. So I'm going to be swapping between several images for this video as it was pointed out to me. It would look a little bit better if there was more imagery in the background instead of just my channel logo. So I am going to start swapping. So let's go through the story with whatever I do know about it, starting from the point where I stopped last time, which was the end of the Crown Games and the beginning of explaining the positions. Now, I'm not 100% sure on how well I did with the positions. I was actually a bit drowsy at the time. So the positions I listed were Fisherman, Scout, Light Bearer, and Spear Bearer, and Wave Controller. Those are your five basic positions. There are more positions that exist within the tower, such as Defender, Guide, and I think there are two more positions that I'm missing, but we'll get to that later as the story goes on when they actually get introduced. So that's just the basics on what the positions were. So during the crown game, there was something that I don't think I mentioned properly. Balm was actually injured really badly in that fight. Now, this is Balm as he appears in season 1. His image does change quite a bit as time goes by in the story, but nonetheless, he was injured quite severely and he ended up unconscious for several days. Now, between the crown game and the next part of the examination was actually position education, basically. It was another part of their testing method. They had to learn to fill in a position in the basic roles that you use to climb the tower, and you get scored based on your attendance, your skills, and all of that plays a role into exactly what's going on. Now, each one of the positions had a different teacher. So basically, this is actually talking about the positions test, and this goes up to the final test, and I'll explain everything to the best of my ability. So, in charge of the scouts was the ranker named Quant. Now, Quant is from the Blitz family. He's a powerful family within the tower. They're known for their fire type Shinsu. I'm not sure if they're one of the 10 great families. No, they're not from the 10 great families. But nonetheless, they're known for using fire type Shinsu. So that is one of the things about them. They're the Blitz family. And they're also known for their crazy antics and speed. So Quant is one of the first few we get introduced to. He's in charge of scouts. So with his particular skill set, he really likes centering the class around himself, and he's very egotistical, and that's how he teaches his lessons about a scout. Then the next position was the spear bearers. Now I don't know the name of the teacher. They don't ever give us her name in the comic, as far as I know. I've read it like I'm a bit ashamed to say it, but about 29 to 30 times. I should be at least at 100 by now. But yeah, I'm really slacking on my Tower of God. But anyway, so I don't know her name, but she was in charge of the fisherman. Now, there's a lot that happens in the fisherman role. So the fisherman role is one of those that is actually important for this whole arc story. Now, during the test for the fisherman, they end up with a combat training on how to reinforce their bodies and how to make themselves better at fighting. And eventually, Anak, who is Anak Jahad, who has the Green April, is put in a test against Endarosi Jahad, who is an actual princess of Jahad. Now, there's a whole long story about this. I'll explain it as we go through with the positions. So, so this is where it gets complicated. The scouts had an objective to befriend other people to make up their team. So that's what they had to do. They had to get 10 friends. And that was the scouts' homework, basically. Now, when it came to the fishermen, Anak has a personal grudge against the family of Jahad, even though she is part of it. She has a direct descendants line to the family of Jahad, and that gives her her power. Now, there is something I missed in the Crown game which I didn't say about. There was a bet between Balm and Anak for the 13-month weapons. Wait, I did mention it. And Balm lost in the end because he got off the throne to defend Rachel, and that's why he lost his weapon to Anak. And when he refers to Anak, he doesn't say Anak, he says the lizard. Now, everybody in the team generally calls her the lizard except for one or two members. But nonetheless, that's the way that it is because she's really foul and basically she's not a very nice person most of the time. But nonetheless, she is a daughter of one of the princesses of Shahad, which is a crime in the tower. So the princesses are governed by several rules. Number one, they're not allowed to share their weapons, which means that Yuri has committed the same crime by borrowing the Black March to Bam. The next thing they're not allowed to do is they're not allowed to be involved in relations with man. And last, they're not allowed to have children. Now, I believe that the reason for those two being separated is some of the species within the tower can have children without, the proper procedure for having children. So that is the things which happen. And since Anak's mother, whose real name is Anak Jahad, had her, she actually committed a crime as far as the princesses are concerned by spreading the power of Jahad by having a child. And that's how come Anak is not really a princess of Jahad. And that's how come she has a 13-month weapon, because her mother was a 13-month princess. Now, with all of that, she's in the tower for her particular goal of killing everybody with the name Jahad. So, in other words, she intends to kill the entire Jahad family, all the way up to King Jahad himself. So, her goal is quite heavy and ambitious. Now, let's move on down the line with this whole Jahad story. So, Anak and Enderossi end up having a fight during one of the positions tests. The teacher is basically trying to limit it down to 8 possible passes, and in the process of it, you're knocking people off a stage where there's improper protection, so they'll be injured so badly they have to quit taking the final exam for their positions test. So that's the whole idea behind the test, which is testing them in 3 or 4 ways, strategic and non-strategic at the same time. And they go for it and they eliminate a whole lot of individuals. And Anak keeps fighting Enderossi. Now, the smart move would have been to eliminate the weaker, the other strong opponents, and leave 3 or 4 within your class. And you get together with those 3 or 4 who are within the same or similar class of power to you, and knock everybody else who's powerful off the ring. That will give you a group of 4 who are guaranteed to pass against any other fisherman. That was the idea behind this test, to see if they can use their brains. Now, Anak obviously just used her desire for revenge and went straight for Enderossi. And she ends up doing this here and ends up getting injured. And she and Enderossi have quite a big talk, which relates to a whole lot of things down the line. I'll get into that at a later time. Now, let's move on to the next position. The next position I'm going to talk about is the light bearers. The light bearers actually have these Shinsu computers, basically. That's what a lighthouse is, or light bearer's position does. And they connect into the flow of information within the tower, and they can read whatever is available. And Kun is the one who does all the digging to find out everything about Anak. And that's how we find out that Anak isn't really a princess of Shahad, but she is a fake princess. In other words, she's born from the line of Jahad, but she isn't a chosen princess, which makes it all the more confusing and all the more weird compared to anybody else. And at this point, we learn quite a bit about it, and we even learn about how the 13 months are passed around. We learn that princesses are chosen every few hundred years within the tower, which makes things really confusing. Their ages are not simple. The tower's lifespan that we know about till the current point in the story is about 5,000 years. That's all that's even referenced to us, and we know there's even more time before that 5,000 years, maybe a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand, that isn't referenced. So the tower could be 10,000 years since Jahad entered, it could be 20,000, we have no idea. We're just running on basic estimates of what's going on, but nonetheless, this is happening at this time. Now, the person in charge of the light bearer position is Lero Ro. Now, Lero Ro is a basic type of ranker. He isn't very boastful or very arrogant or anything like that, and you can see that his character is shining through. He actually has quite a bit of care for the people under his command. And with everything that happened in the Crown game, he had some a talk with the test supervisor. The test supervisor for this floor is Han Sang Yu. I'm actually purposefully avoiding talking about him because I'll make a video on him altogether on his own once I catch up with my climb of the tower. So let's go with the next thing to note. The next position of considerable talking over here are the spear bearers. So the spear bearer's position is given a simple test to instantly pass the first examination, which is to see where they ranked, and that is to hit a far target. Now, the spear bearer teacher says it is a close target. If they can hit it, then they're considered a good enough spear bearer to actually flow along with the work of a light bearer. They have better aim, better trajectory. All of this makes a big difference in how they can fight in the tower. So anybody who is that skilled should instantly pass. That's what the teacher says, and they do it. Now, Balm is special in the fact that he is a wave controller. That's where they positioned him based on his performance. And this is where things really get complicated. The teacher in charge of this is Yuga. Now, we do know his name, but he's actually being impersonated by Lopo Bia Ren. Now, Lopobia is one of the 10 great families. Ren is a member of a special group in the tower called Red, Royal Enforcement Division. Now, he is there to actually kill Anak Jahad and recover the two 13-month weapons that have ended up in the hands of regulars. So that's his whole purpose over there. But rankers are not allowed in regulars areas, and there's rules against them interfering with them. So he has to do things very slyly, and he has to do things without actually directly breaking the rules of the tower. And this here makes it kind of complicated on what he has to do. So he has to infiltrate, and he has to manipulate the tests to follow his plan and have them put themselves in danger. Now, moving on from this, the next thing that we should know is Balm was injured, and Lopo Biaren, as I'm going to refer to him from now on, arrives 3 days late to start his class, right? So he starts on the third day after the classes, which gives Balm just enough time to recover. He wakes up with, I think, a day to spare, at which point he is given a uniform by Kun, and that really sets the crocodile Rat Raitseya off. So yeah, that's how things go at that point. And this is everything that happens up to this position. And this position is the most influential and the biggest key. Now, within the wave position, there are three people who are of big importance. Ho, who is that very regular type of individual. Panskul Laure, and he is a fantastic wave controller just because he was born from the 10 great families. And last is Balm. Balm, who knows nothing, picks up information and picks up skills so quickly that it's really infuriating to the other regulars. He has a natural skill to pick up any ability, and he just picks it up so quickly that it makes them feel like their efforts are inferior. This year is particularly felt by Ho, who trained for years and can only do a small little parlor trick with his Shinsu. He isn't as strong as any of the others. He isn't particularly well suited to that position. And Laure actually explains that is the difference between skill and talent. And he naturally has talent, so his skill just goes up that much faster. You can have all the skill in the world, but natural talent can just shoot you right through all of that almost instantly. And that's what he describes on the path of Balm, which really ticks off Ho in the secret, and Ho begins to hold a grudge against Balm. But that's another complicated story, which we'll get into as we get to the next section. Now, within this time, a whole lot of things happen, and a team is formed with our three main characters. That's Kun, Rak, and Balm, and they end up teaming up with Shibisu, Hats, the swordsman, Anak, Enderossi, Rachel. I'm forgetting the other two on their team. Oh, Miss Lennon, who's another regular in the scout position, and I'm forgetting the last member of their team. Oh, Laure is part of their team, and I'm forgetting who's the last one. So nonetheless, they all form together to make this big team within the entire structure of how they're moving along. And Kun decides that he's going to change a little bit of his way to carry on moving with Balm, because Balm has really put some type of impact on his character. You see, Kun is from the Kun family, where they have this nasty habit with each other. They fight each other all the time, and they don't have real good morals as a basics to point out about this family. So with all of that, Kun decides he is going to team up with Balm under his ideals, and that is going to be the basis of where things go. Now, with all of this, a lot happens within the tower. Their climb begins basically at this point when they put into their positions test. And the positions test is called hide and seek. And to make it more ridiculous, rankers are millions of times stronger than a real person, a normal person. They most probably could slaughter a million people in an instant without anybody even being able to stop them. That's how dangerous I'd say a ranker is to normal people in the tower. And a ranker versus these regulars who have some power, I'd say it would take 190,000 at least to actually put up a slight fight with the ranker holding back. That's what it would still be like. They could still slaughter them by the millions in count. And their test is hide and seek against a ranker. So that's just to tell you what type of ridiculous odds they've been put up against. So there's no way they can actually win the test if they rely on their natural skill. They have to use other objectives to actually pass. They have to use their skill in knowledge, they have to use tactic, and they have to try and play to the ranker's weaknesses. And they're given the easier objective of basically coming over uh, Quant. Now, Quant against Lero Row is a big difference. If it was Lero Row, they would have had a lot more mercy. And what Lero Row was afraid of was Quant will just murder all of the regulars in an instant the moment he starts the test. And we then get the teams broken up by the test supervisor into two teams to take this test. So each team is basically balanced with almost the same amount of individuals. One team has more light bearers, and the other team has more wave controllers. So that's how they break it up in between. And everybody's actually fighting for a chance to actually pass at this point. The only two who do end up passing is Ghost, the creature given to Rachel. I actually do know his name. I'm just not sure how to pronounce it. Akarin, Arkrang, something along those lines. But nonetheless, I'll just keep calling him Ghost. And this is where things start to shake up in our entire climb of the tower. So these characters form the baseline of our main characters, and they are now passing. So he passed along with Rak because they passed the Spear Bearers test. Nobody else does from the Spear Bearers. So there's two more positions open, if I'm correct, and they need to get two more added to it. And the first team to take it is Kun's team. Kun's team puts up a very, very good show. Kun makes a whole lot of strategies and plans up to actually ruin the test for his team so that the other members from his team will pass, while he still gets those who he wants to pass by showing off their skills. He's a very, very intelligent individual, as you can guess. Plus, there's something else. His bag and a whole lot of his items are actually stolen from his father. So these are the highest ranked items a person can have. They do give you a severe advantage, and he's using them to the maximum of his ability in everything that he does. So they play the test from start to end. They try to catch the ranker in the start, which ends up falling in their face straight. They then start running away from him because he gives them a 33-minute head start on them. And with all of that, they go and they try to get Anak out of the situation. I have to explain this here. In the hide and seek game, there's someone who has it labeled with a badge, and the ranker also had a badge. So if they catch the badge of the ranker, they instantly pass and they get bonus points. And if they escape the ring, they pass, but they don't get bonus points. So basically, it's to see whether you're willing to take that risk to catch the ranker. And it's at this point that Kun betrays his team. He lets his team get caught, and it's like such an amazing win for the ranker because he literally tricks the ranker to fail. The ranker is put so far below that he has no chance to catch up to Anak, who's crossing the bridge. And he's also limited in his capabilities. In the test, he is only allowed one bang of Shinsu, of 10 Su and 10 Yin. So he only has that one chance to use his Shinsu, and can only use it within that scope, within that power that he has. So if he releases it, he's in trouble. Now, before this whole situation, he ends up being helped by Laure and Kun to catch the it so that he doesn't lose, because, as I said, he's egocentric, and they use this to their advantage to get him to uh, follow their ploy in the next event. So Kun makes this thing that he wants Rachel eliminated, so that he does everything in his power to protect Rachel in the next match, and it actually works perfectly in that sense. He does intend to do exactly that. Now I'm jumping straight into the next match right now, even though I don't intend to pull that far. But the last one, the last part of this floor will be explained all on its own. Actually, you know what? I'm actually cutting it here. The last part I'm going to explain all together in one sequence, because this relates to Rachel. And Rachel's part at this point becomes crazy big, and you'll understand how big in the next video. So catch you all then. Have a good day.